Actually, I'm here to talk about disruption. So my personal story is like this. I was born in Russia, grew up in the States, in Holland. I have a Bulgarian girlfriend, so that's why I'm kind of here. I've been coming to Bulgaria in the last few years. I've had several companies, one pretty successful one, which I sold this year. And as I got time and some money on my hands, I decided to move to Bulgaria and do some disruptive business development. Basically, disruption, it's a buzzword, right? Everyone probably, heard it. I want to talk about a few things today. Basically, 4 best practices and 4 simple pieces of advice about how to be disruptive and how to achieve results with that. And since, with this open company, most of the people are doing some kind of disruptive business models, I thought it's a good thing to do. So basically, what is disruption, right? It's a thing we hear a lot. If you look at the dictionary, the Oxford English Dictionary, you will see that it's actually a pretty bad thing. You have words like violent, destructive, dangerous, antisocial. And it's only the second part of the explanation, you actually see that it's a business concept which started becoming popular in 1995 when a Harvard professor wrote a little article about what is disruptive business. We'll come to that later, but it's a funny thing to see that it's very, very mixed term. So, being disruptive, it has 2 sides, right? It has, it can be a lot of fun, but it can also be pretty dangerous. This is John Lennon and Yoko Ono. I don't know if you guys know the photograph. They were having a sleep in Amsterdam, protesting for world peace. Very disruptive, a lot of fun. But then we have an East German soldier jumping over the barbed wire as the Berlin Wall was built, who was doing something disruptive, and this was very dangerous. So that's really a very good example of how it can also go wrong. It's all about doing it the right way, right? What is disruptive in business terms? So this guy is Clay Christensen. He wrote a book in 1995 which was called Innovator's Dilemma. Very interesting if you don't know it. Very complicated stuff. If you're smart, you probably know this, but it's all about how big companies, if they don't disrupt, they fail, even if everything is right. Probably one of the best examples I was reading about this week is Eastman Kodak. I don't know if you guys know this. You probably remember this when you were kids. The yellow film, throwaway cameras. This company was really, really big in photography, and they went bankrupt this year. They still exist, but they're never going to make it, even though everything was right. Clay, I'm not going to tell you what he did, but he wrote basically a very good article back in 1995 about how successful big companies can fail if they're not disruptive. In reality, and that's my own experience as well, disruption is a way of life. So unfortunately, I made these slides before Steve Jobs died, otherwise I probably would have never put them there. The examples of guys like Steve and Charles Bukowski, who's a great American writer, is that it's all about failure, doing bold stuff, being perceived as an idiot by everyone, challenging everything you see, which makes you successful in the end. It's all about long-term and failure. Those are the 2 key words. Basically four best practices. Before that, actually, disruption comes from the inside. You have Che Guevara and Neil Armstrong. If you look now at what they did, no one really remembers that so much as the fact that they're very inspiring people, which comes with being disruptive. So 4 easy steps, right, for being disruptive. First of all, it's all about rejection. That's one of those very difficult things that you can get used to, it's very difficult to get used to. Getting rejected, trying, failing. This is also a very famous photograph, again in Lego. This was a guy who actually ran naked on a rugby field in 1974 during the rugby finals in Twickenham, England. He just ran naked on the field. He was arrested by police. One policeman put a hat in front of his privates. Very, very stupid, you would say. But I'm sure that the guy had learned a lot from that experience. So whether or not he was jumping naked on the football field, you can really learn a lot by just trying stuff, even if it will bring you guaranteed failure. In business, very often that's exactly what you do. People just make fun of you, but in the long run you will. The cool thing about getting rejected, about aiming high and getting rejected is that it's a very educational and potentially rewarding experience. Educational because, well, you learn a lot from it. Potentially rewarding because whatever you try, if you do it in small iterations, so you do it often, you try and fail, the chances of actually getting success are very high because the output that you get is always a max function, right? Like in Excel. So it's not the average function that, you try a lot of things and then you get the average. But with failure, or with, being disruptive and failing very often, you fail, but when you succeed, you actually get that as a result, the max result. So you don't have to average it on all your failures. So it's a very simple arithmetical way to explain why failure and failing often a lot is very good. This is actually a famous photograph from the Vietnam protests. The guy was holding up flowers against a bunch of soldiers. It seemed very ridiculous, but in the end, the war ended, and these guys, are considered heroes. The second part of the 4, it's all about climbing the right hill. This is something that I found very difficult. When I had my first job and then second job, and then I had to, left that job, big risk, to start my first company, which became pretty successful. It's climbing the right hill. This is something that is best explained actually, showing the hill. Imagine if you're here, right? You're climbing this hill, but you don't really know, well, except on this picture you can't see, but imagine this mountain is a bit further away. You don't actually see that this mountain is behind it and that it's higher. So people have this natural tendency to like incremental progress. Like when you're at your job and you have the feeling that you're doing fine, and your boss likes you and you're learning new stuff every day. It doesn't mean that if you don't leave that job or you don't start doing something else, that you won't be much more successful in that. It's very easy to get tricked, also in personal relationships and love relationships, unfortunately, I know from experience, in thinking that, well, this is good enough, we're making progress. In reality, you very often miss out on much bigger stuff. So, it's about long term, right? These are 3 guys in Steve Jobs again, who really became very, very successful with long-term strategies. It's not about the short term. They actually saw the big hill behind the small hill and they climbed that one. For a very long time, you get ridiculed, but in the end, you really become successful. And probably the only way to become that successful, apart from being in the United States, is climbing the big hill. So long-term stuff. Part 3 of the 4 is basically, scratching your itch and building your toy. This is, does anyone recognize this photograph? It's Salvador Dali, the Spanish painter. It's a famous photograph of him, throwing stuff around and painting. In Lego, it doesn't look so cool. But, it's about, building your crazy toy and scratching your own itch. So not doing stuff that people tell you to do, but just, try to come up with solutions for things that bother you, not others. If you look at history, a lot of great products were actually built that way. Gmail is a very good example of, it started as a test project at Google, it's a famous story. Now it's one of their major products. Post-it notes, very cool actually. This was, I don't know, you guys probably know the story of Post-it notes? No one? Yeah, I guess, yeah, some people do. It's a famous story. So this was the Minnesota mining manufacturing company, which is now called 3M. And they were putting heavy equipment. And some guy there invented the idea of putting, glue on paper and using it for notes. Now, this is the only stuff that they do. They don't build any mining equipment anymore. Something more recent, actually, Square. This guy was, founder of Square was here in Bulgaria about a month ago. Very cool story about a guy who had a glass blowing business, but it was too expensive for him to accept card payments. So he actually came up with a system for the iPhone where you could plug a thing in and swipe a card and do a card payment. And now this is it's a multi-million-dollar company doing it. And then the fourth thing, I guess, is basically using your toy to transform the industry. Whether you use charm, right, David Maradona, or smartness, like Winston Churchill or some other people. Just go out there and use the technology that is there, which is the internet. If you look, for example, this kind of photographs 40 years ago, this was art when Andy Warhol made this. Now it's Instagram. You can really use technology to transform stuff. Basically, it's all about these 4 approaches. So, getting rejected, climbing the right hill, finding your joy, and sharing that joy with the world. And they're in 4 very easy steps. It's about failure. Angry Birds, a famous game. It's actually the 53rd product of the company, Rovio. The other 52 products were fails, but they failed so often, we learned so much from it that they have Angry Birds right now. But also, Steve Jobs with his first iPhone, not a very good idea. It was just a Motorola phone where you could play some iTunes songs. Made a big deal out of it. No one wanted to buy it. Everyone laughed at him again. But a few years later, he came back with the iPhone, the one we have now. So, disrupting is failing. Disrupting is building. Many of you, I guess, know the book by Eric Ries, The Lean Startup. It's all about building. It doesn't make so much sense talking about stuff, but just go out there and start building it. Nowadays, it's very simple. You can start it with the Google spreadsheet, or you can hold a meeting in your house, or actually Maggie, who's not here, she has a yoga studio down there. Just rent a room, start your own company, give yoga lessons. So just start doing it instead of talking it. Measure what you do. This is where math really comes in handy. I'm a lawyer by training. My father is a physicist, and he was always telling me, you don't disregard math and physics. You will need it at some point in life. I always laughed at him. It's like, I'm going to be a lawyer. You don't need it. Right now, when I'm actually building businesses, I understand how important it is, to have a simple arithmetical knowledge. So measure whatever you do. Make lists. Make the 4 of this, the 5 of that. Put everything that you see in a spreadsheet. It really, really helps understanding what you're doing. And learning. So it's pretty easy, right? So you build, you fail, then you build stuff, then you learn stuff, then you measure stuff, and from all that you can learn a lot. And it doesn't matter how often you do these cycles, as long as you do them quickly, and as long as you do them basically as often as you can. Because whether you fail 50 times or 60 times or 1,000 times, the one after that will be the really successful one that will make up for all the previous ones. So that's pretty much what disruption is all about. It's a way of life. There are a few simple things you've got to keep in mind, but it really works. I can tell you from personal experience. That's it. Thank you.